The rhythmic clatter of the deep-run tram echoed in Mosiwa's ears as she made her way from the bustling city of Stormwind to the heart of Dwarven lands, Ironforge. The cathedral had tasked her with forging a stronger bond between humans and dwarves, a mission of diplomacy and healing. But as the tram sped through its tunnel, Mosiwa knew her journey was far from simple. When she finally emerged into the grand city of Ironforge, its towering stone halls were a stark contrast to the warmth of Stormwind. After a brief rest, Mosiwa continued her journey, braving the snow-covered mountain paths that led to Coldridge Valley. The wind was fierce, biting through her robes, but she pressed on, her resolve unwavering. As she approached the valley, Mosiwa's path was blocked by a narrow tunnel. The eerie growls and shuffling sounds from within signaled danger. Trogs. These brutish creatures had been a menace to the dwarves for years. Clutching her staff, Mosiwa stepped into the tunnel, her hands glowing with the power of the light. The Trogs lunged at her from the shadows, but with each strike of her staff and every burst of holy energy, they fell one by one. Her heart raced as the final Trog crumbled to the ground. With a deep breath, Mosiwa stepped out of the tunnel, the cold air biting at her once more. In the distance, Coldridge Valley sprawled before her, the rugged landscape a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. As Mosiwa made her way deeper into Coldridge Valley, she spotted a grizzled dwarf standing on the outskirts of the camp. His stern gaze met hers, and with a wave, he beckoned her over.
Hey, you there! You're a stout-looking priest. Lend us a hand.
Of course. What seems to be the trouble?
Looks like today's big earthquake shook a bunch of those barbarous trogs out of the ground. And now, they're stirred up, causing all kinds of trouble. My men are doing what they can to hold them off, but we could sure use some help.
Trogs, you say? Sounds like you need more than just a hand. You need the light. Where do I go?
Aye, your light'll come in handy here. Head just south of here. Help dig me mountaineers out of trouble, and slay those Rockjaw invaders. We've got to hold the line.
I'll see it done. They won't stand a chance.
That's the spirit. Good luck out there, priest. We'll be waiting for you to return, hopefully with fewer trogs around.
As Mosiwa moved south, her thoughts lingered on the earthquake Soren mentioned. The valley had been rocked by violent tremors, unearthing old tunnels long sealed beneath the mountains. From those depths, the Rockjaw Trogs had surged, driven to the surface by chaos. For the dwarves, the Trogs were an old threat, and now, with their forces scattered, the valley stood at risk. Mosiwa gripped her staff, knowing the task ahead required not just the light strength, but swift action. The Trogs had to be stopped, and she would help hold the line.
Impressive work, lassie. We can hold the perimeter from here on out, thanks to you.
I'm glad I could help. The Trogs won't be a problem for a while.
Aye, and for that, you've earned a bit of a reward. Here, take these for your troubles. Might come in handy in this rugged place.
Thank you. I'll put them to good use.
Now, don't wander off just yet. I've got something a bit more important to ask of ye, if you're up for it.
What is it?
Come closer, lass. It's a bit more dangerous this time, but I reckon you're up to the task. All right, Mosiwa, listen up. I know a thing or two about trogs, and one thing's for sure. The biggest, strongest trogs get the most respect. Those brutes value strength above anything else.
So, you want me to take out their leaders?
Aye. Ye see those big trogs sitting back behind the front lines? Those are the closest they've got to what ye'd call leaders. Big, mean, and stupid as a rock, but they're the ones in charge.
I'll take them down.
That's the spirit! Go take out a few of those Rockjaw goons and show them what it means to mess with the Sons of Ironforge. And maybe you'll remind them who's in charge of this valley while you're at it.
Consider it done.
As Mosiwa prepared to head out for her next mission, her attention was caught by a dwarf standing a few paces away. Sten Stodon's face was etched with worry, his eyes scanning the camp as if desperately seeking someone. His gaze fell on Mosiwa, and with a brisk wave, he beckoned her over.
Mosiwa, listen! Unlike Joran, I've no need for your blade, but I do need someone with a steady hand and a bit of courage.
What do you need?
Our mountaineers are trained for the odd wolf attack, not an all-out Trog invasion. Many of our best are wounded and exhausted, and I need your help bandaging them up.
I can do that. Show me where they are.
Aye. Take this first aid kit and tend to as many as ye can. Every hand helps.
I'm on it.
The chaos of battle surrounded Mosiwa as she moved between the mountaineers and the towering trogs. The rock-jaw goons loomed large, their brute strength pushing the dwarves back. But Mosiwa fought with purpose. Each step she took, she cut down a goon with swift determination. Amid the fighting, she noticed the wounded dwarves scattered across the battlefield. Without hesitation, she knelt beside them, offering a brief moment of healing before returning to the fight. The dwarves' strength returned just in time to hold the line, their eyes filled with renewed hope. As the battle dragged on, Mosiwa could see the tide turning. The trogs, once fierce and unrelenting, were falling one by one. The mountaineers, reinvigorated by her aid, rose to defend their home with newfound courage.
They blame us for destroying their home, ye say. Well, that wasn't us. That was the horrible earthquake we had earlier today.
It seems they don't see it that way.
Are they that dense that they can't see we nearly lost our camp too? Can't blame a Trog for fighting for his home, though. Here, take this. Ye've earned it. A small token for helping us hold the line.
Thank you. I'm glad I could be of help.
Aye, and with that, we can start rebuilding. Good luck out there, lass.
Many of those ye saved have already made it back to camp. The wounds ye patched up, well dressed. Fine work.
I'm glad I could help them.
Ye might have a future in first aid if you're into that sort of thing. Take this for your trouble. And if ye ever want to tend to more injuries, we'll be glad to have ye around.
Thank you. It was an honor to assist.
Mosiwa spotted Joran standing at the edge of the camp, his face marked with concern. She approached him, sensing that the situation had grown even more urgent. The Trog attacks and the earthquake had taken their toll, and it seemed the dwarves were now moving civilians into lockdown.
Joran, you look troubled. What's going on?
Aye, lass, things have gotten worse. Due to the Trog attacks and that blasted earthquake, we've had to put all the civilians on lockdown in Anvilmar, just up the hill.
Is there anything I can do?
That's why I'm glad ye came by. My wife, Jonah, is up there, helping keep things together. We need someone like ye to lend her a hand. Anvilmar's a mess, and she could use your strength.
I'll go right away. Where can I find her?
Just head northwest, up the hill. Jonah's inside Anvilmar. She'll let ye know what needs doing. And Mosiwa, thank ye again. We'd be lost without ye.
Ah, and what do you want? Can't ye see I'm busy in here? Go on, bother someone else. I haven't the time.
Joran sent me to help.
Wait, what's that ye say? Joran sent ye to help. Well, why didn't ye say so sooner? All right, lass, welcome aboard. We've got plenty that needs doing. I don't know how anyone expects to get any work done around here if we don't have any ale. Our beer level in Anvilmar is dangerously low.
Ale? That's the priority?
Aye, lass. Lucky for us, we've stowed away some backup kegs for just such an occasion. West of Anvilmar, along the valley's northern border, you'll find kegs of Stormhammer Stout and Theramore Pale Ale. Just to the east, there's a stash of Gnomenbrow, my personal favorite.
So you want me to fetch them?
Exactly. Without it, no one's gonna have the energy to get any work done out around here. Now, off ye go.
Before setting off, Mosiwa was stopped by Grundle Harkin, who greeted her with a wide grin. The chaos of the day had unearthed more than just trouble. It had brought long-buried dwarven artifacts to the surface. Though archaeology wasn't something she had expected to deal with, the idea of discovering ancient relics intrigued her. With a smile and a nod, Mosiwa agreed to help recover the artifacts, her next task already forming in her mind. As Mosiwa carefully unearthed each artifact, she couldn't help but marvel at the history buried beneath the valley's soil. The dwarves had lived in these mountains for generations, their legacy etched into every stone and metal fragment she uncovered. Each artifact she found told a story. The chipped hammer, likely used by a blacksmith long ago, still bore the marks of countless hours spent forging weapons. A finely crafted ale mug, adorned with ancient dwarven runes, spoke of the rich traditions and celebrations that once echoed through these halls. One piece stood out, a small, intricately carved statue of a dwarven warrior, his shield raised high. The detail was stunning, capturing the pride and strength of a people who had weathered centuries of conflict and strife. Holding it in her hands, Mosiwa felt a connection to the past, as if these relics weren't just forgotten pieces of history, but reminders of the resilience that ran deep in the dwarven bloodline. Each artifact she gathered wasn't just a relic, it was a fragment of a culture, a link to the stories of those who came before. Mosiwa returned to Grundle and placed the artifacts in front of him. His eyes widened as he inspected each piece, clearly impressed by what she had found.
I found these along the valley's border, just like you said.
Wonderful. Look at this one. It must be over 200 years old.
Quite the discovery, isn't it?
Aye, lass. These'll tell us plenty about our ancestors. Thank ye. Now, on to other matters. But first, take this for your troubles. Ye know, the Trog village to the southwest suffered damage from the quake too. It'd be logical to think there'd be some Trog artifacts sticking out of the ground.
You want me to go look for them?
Aye, but there's a catch. Looks like the scavengers have already snatched up most of the good ones. I need ye to see if ye can recover a few from them.
Trog artifacts? Interesting.
Believe it or not, we might learn a thing or two about them brutes, and that might help us understand more about our own history. Go on, lass, and be careful with those scavengers.
I've got what you asked for, Stormhammer Stout, Theramore Pale Ale, and, of course, the Gnomenbrow.
Ah, that's the stuff. Let me just have a sip. Ah, now that hits the spot. Now we can finally get some real work done around here.
Glad to hear it.
Thanks for fetching these, lass. Here, take this as a token of appreciation. You've done more than your fair share already.
Just as Mosiwa turned to leave, Jonah called her back with another request. There was more work to be done.
Well, if we're gonna be on lockdown for a while, we're gonna need more than just ale. We'll need some food and blankets to keep everyone warm.
What do you need me to gather?
A few of the small boars out there should have some decent haunches. Good eating they are. And we'll need some pelts from the young wolves to keep the little ones warm.
I can take care of that. Where should I start?
You'll find animals pretty much anywhere in Coldridge. Shouldn't be too hard to gather what we need. I'll be waiting here when you've got the supplies.
Consider it done.
As Mosiwa approached the Trog village, she was met with a strange sight. The Rockjaw Trogs, rather than guarding their artifacts, were throwing them at her in frustration. Each crude relic flew through the air, landing at her feet as if they held no value to the Trogs. At first, it seemed chaotic, but as Mosiwa gathered the artifacts, she began to see a pattern. These were not just random objects, they were pieces of their past, discarded without a second thought. The Trogs, caught up in the fury of the earthquake and invasion, had no use for history now. But for Mosiwa, these artifacts could be the key to understanding more about them, perhaps even the very reason they had been driven to conflict.
I've recovered these from the Rockjaw Trogs. They were throwing them at me like they didn't matter.
Throwing them at ye, eh? Well, would ye look at this? An axe blade, a couple of arrowheads, and... is this a spoon? A rudimentary one, at least. Fascinating.
Seems like they don't value their history the way you do.
Aye, lass. Their loss is our gain. Thanks again for your help, Mosiwa. I've got plenty to study while Joran's got us locked down. Keep this robe as a token of my gratitude.
After handing over the Rockjaw artifacts to Grundle, Mosiwa made her way to Jonah with the boar haunches and wolf pelts. The supplies were meager, but they would have to do for now. Jonah nodded gratefully, already calculating how to stretch the food to feed everyone under lockdown. As Mosiwa handed over the items, she couldn't help but hope that King Bronzebeard would send reinforcements soon.
You've done us a great service here, Mosiwa, but I'm afraid I've got to send ye off elsewhere.
Elsewhere? What's going on?
A good friend of mine, Grelin Whitebeard, has sent word. He may need some reinforcements near the troll camps to the southwest. Trogs may be a pain, but trolls? They're a whole different kind of trouble.
I see. Where can I find him?
Follow the road westward, you'll find him soon enough. Be careful out there. Grelin's a tough one, but he could sure use your help.
I'll head there right away. Thanks, Jonah.
Be well, Mosiwa, and keep your guard up. Trolls can be tricky.
Mosiwa followed the winding path westward, the chill in the air growing sharper as she neared the troll camps. It wasn't long before she spotted Grelin Whitebeard, standing firm and watchful near the camp's edge. It was clear he had been waiting for her.
The trolls are acting up. More than usual, I'd say. We've seen them put together war parties before, but this time, something's different.
What's the plan?
The most important thing is protecting Anvilmar. I've no intention of letting those trolls flank us while we're dealing with the Trogs. Go thin their ranks a bit. Let them know we're not without defenses.
I'll take care of it.
Good. Head out and deal with those Frostmane troll whelps. They need a reminder of who they're messing with.
Just as Mosiwa was preparing to carry out Grelin's orders, she was approached by apprentice Soren. His demeanor was more cautious, and his words hinted at a deeper understanding of the situation with the trolls.
Mosiwa, wait a moment. I know Grelin wants us to thin the trolls' ranks, but something doesn't feel right. These trolls don't look angrier. They look confused, maybe even scared.
What do you mean? Grelin said they were preparing for an attack.
Aye, but I'm not so sure. There's something happening that we're not seeing yet. We need to investigate before we just kill every troll in sight. I say we do some listening first.
Listen to what, exactly?
Each of the troll camps has a soothsayer, kind of spiritual leader. If you get close enough to him, you might be able to overhear what they're saying. They might tell us what's really going on.
All right. I'll listen first, then decide what to do.
Despite the uncertainty in Soren's voice and the confusion in the eyes of the trolls, Mosiwa chose to follow Grelin's orders. The safety of Anvilmar came first, and Grelin had made it clear that the trolls were a threat. With a heavy heart, Mosiwa descended on the camps, cutting down the Frostmane troll whelps as ordered. Even as she fought, Soren's words echoed in her mind, but she pressed on, knowing that sometimes the choices a leader makes aren't always the easiest. Though she followed Grelin's orders to deal with the trolls, Mosiwa didn't forget Soren's advice. As she moved through the camps, she made sure to get close enough to the soothsayers, listening carefully to their words. Their chants were strange, filled with uncertainty and fear, hinting at something deeper than mere aggression. It was clear the trolls were responding to more than just territorial disputes, but what exactly was causing their confusion remained unclear.
Soren, I listened to the soothsayers like you suggested. From what I could gather, they seemed terrified, speaking of fire and something breaking free.
Interesting. From what you're saying, it sounds like a fire elemental might have slipped in from Searing Gorge. Or maybe the earthquake opened a crack to the elemental plane. Either way, it's bad news. If the trolls are scared, there's no telling what might come next.
Should we tell Grelin?
Aye, ye should probably report this to him. If there's a fire elemental involved, he'll want to know.
As Mosiwa made her way to Grelin, ready to report what she had learned, her attention was drawn to a gnome pacing restlessly by the campfire. His movements were quick and nervous, as though something was weighing heavily on his mind.
Excuse me, you seem a bit restless. What's wrong?
Oh, Mosiwa, it's a disaster. I was on my way to join my fellow gnomes at mmorpg, but everything's gone horribly wrong.
What happened?
First, I left Anvilmar bags packed, wading through waist-deep snow. Then the earthquake hit, and I got all turned around in the chaos. Next thing I knew, I ended up here. And the worst part, the trolls stole all my stuff.
That sounds like quite the ordeal. How can I help?
I've proven myself pretty useless over the last day and a half. Would ye mind infiltrating the troll camps southwest of here and recovering my things? My box, my chest, and my bucket of bolts, all gone.
Consider it done, Felix. I'll get your things back. I've done what you asked. The trolls won't be a threat for now.
Hopefully that did the trick. Anvilmar will be safe from the trolls, for the time being.
There's something else, though. They didn't seem like they were attacking out of malice. It was more like confusion.
I've heard Soren muttering about that. There's something stirring them up, no doubt. We need to find out what has them so agitated.
I'll keep an eye out.
Good lass. Here, take this for your trouble. Ye've done well. Soren did well to send ye out on recon. That's some good information he brought back.
The trolls are confused, but there's something else. Fire elementals. It seems like something bigger is happening.
Aye, you're right. But that just means more work for us. Confused or not, those trolls would still like to kick the dwarves right out of Coldridge. And no way I'm letting some fiery demon turn our snowy valley into a mountain lake.
What do you need me to do?
You'll need to take out their leader, Grik'nir, along with his servants, the Frostmane novices, and that fire creature. They're all holed up in the cave to the southeast. Make sure none of them get out.
I'll see it done.
Good. Make sure ye come back in one piece, lass. We need strong folk like ye to keep this valley safe.
Mosiwa stepped into the cave, the air immediately turning cold and damp around her. The sounds of chanting echoed off the walls, and Frostmane trolls lurked in the shadows. With swift strikes and the power of the light, she dispatched a handful of them, clearing her path deeper into the heart of the cave. As Mosiwa ventured further, the air grew heavier, and a fiery glow illuminated the cavern ahead. There, at the center, stood Grik'nir the Cold, flanked by a towering fire elemental. The contrast of ice and fire in one place was unsettling, but Mosiwa readied herself for the battle, knowing she couldn't let these forces escape. With a final blow, Grik'nir fell, and the fire elemental dissipated into a puff of smoke and embers. Mosiwa took a deep breath, her muscles aching from the fight, but her mission was complete. She glanced back at the now silent cave, knowing it was time to return to Grelin with the news of her success.
I'm glad you've returned safely, Mosiwa. While it may not look like it now, you've proven to be a tremendous asset in the protection of Anvilmar.
I took care of Grik'nir and the elemental. The cave is clear now.
Aye, you've done well. Here, take this as a symbol of my gratitude. You've earned it.
Thank you, Grelin.
Keep your wits about ye, lass. We may have dealt with this problem, but I doubt it'll be the last of the trouble around here. The presence of a fire elemental here in Coldridge is no small matter, Mosiwa. That earthquake didn't just upset a bunch of trogs, it tore a gash into the elemental plane.
That explains the fire elemental. What do we do now?
We should submit a report to Ironforge. I need ye to take a trip and talk to Han Springsprocket by the tunnel on the eastern edge of the valley. He'll point ye in the right direction.
Consider it done.
I've got a feeling you'll do just fine. Good luck, lass, and keep your head on straight.
Before heading out to meet Hans Springsprocket, Mosiwa made a quick stop to return Felix's lost items. The gnome's face lit up with relief as she handed him his box, chest, and bucket of bolts.
Greetings, Hans. Grelin Whitebeard sent me. There's been trouble, trolls, trogs, and even a fire elemental. He wants me to report the situation to Ironforge.
To Ironforge, eh? Well, first you'll need to get through Karanos. And before that, you'll have to pass through this tunnel.
Got it. Anything else I should know?
Nah, just keep your wits about ye. Once you're through the tunnel, Karanos will be straight ahead, and Ironforge not far after that.
Thanks. I'll be on my way then.
Did ye see that? The whole cave just crumbled like that. Good thing ye got here when ye did, and not a minute later.
That was the only way to Karanos, wasn't it?
Aye, it was. Well, it makes my job easier monitoring the cave entrance, but it sure makes it harder for you to get to Karanos.
So what now?
Hey, wait. I've got an idea. The mmorpg airmen have a flight path not far from here. I'll send up a signal, and they'll be here to help. I imagine they'll land back over at Anvilmar.
That's a good plan. I'll head back to Anvilmar and report to Milo Geertwinge.
Good luck, lass. Let's hope the airmen get there in time.
Are you Milo Geertwinge?
Milo Geertwing reporting for duty. You sent up a distress signal?
Yes, Hans Springsprocket signaled for help. The tunnel collapsed, and we need another way through.
Understood. We'll get things moving. Let's make sure you get where you need to go.
Mosiwa received her final instructions from Milo. With a limited space on the gyrocopter, there was only room for her and a few personal belongings. Jonah had already moved most of her things into Anvilmar, so Mosiwa quickly gathered her Coldridge beer flagon, a ragged wolf-hide cloak, and some leftover boar meat. With everything in hand, she returned to Milo, ready for takeoff. As Mosiwa was preparing to leave Anvilmar, she spotted Jonah Ironstock near the camp. Stopping to say goodbye, Jonah quickly pulled her aside with one last request. She asked Mosiwa to speak with Tharic Blackstone in Karanos, explaining the situation in Coldridge and requesting assistance. As Mosiwa soared over the snow-covered valley toward Karanos, the cold wind whipping past her, she couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened in Coldridge. The trolls, the fire elemental, and the looming uncertainty of what lay ahead weighed on her mind. Jonah had asked her to speak with Varric Blackstone, but from what she'd heard, it seemed Karanos had its own share of problems. Whatever awaited her there, Mosiwa knew that her journey was far from over. The challenges in Coldridge were just the beginning.